I'm alive. I shouldn't be.
He should not be alive. This is unfucking believable.
From the heart of trucker America, my boy Reed Coverdale, host of The Naturalist Capitalist.
This is what government does. It sucks.
If you think you're going to win people over by stating commonplaces, you're just selling the other part.
It is about dictating every transaction that you have for the rest of your life.
Mr. Potato Head.
Coverdale is the guy to be president of the United States.
You intimidated me with your perfect 74 stat.
That was the beginning of my problems.
He died doing what he loved, chasing a minor.
But I'll put a 50 cal attached to my Suburban.
Libertarians need to get out of New York.
The gulag is going to be in your house.
This guy's a fucking murderer. He deserves to be in a
Gotta get him out of
dungeon.
that truck at night and get him into the White House.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of The Naturalist Capitalist. A lot has happened in the last several days since I had Spike Cohen on the show. We're going to be covering it a bit. But before we get into the show today, I want to mention that in the links in the description, I've stopped putting like Patreon, YouTube, Spotify, Odyssey, like listing all of them because there's gotten up to like 30 links that I've had in there. So now I just have my link tree in there, and you can just go to my link tree, and then it has literally every platform that I'm on, and even the ones that no one uses, like Gab, Getter, Float, all those things. So click on my link tree in the description, and that will bring you everywhere that you can follow me. And then I'll have more room for, the guest links, or if we talk about something interesting during the show, that way it's just easier to follow. It's less cluttered. It doesn't, you don't have to read an essay to get to all the links. So that's the way things are now. So go check that out. And on my link tree, you will see my Substack and my Telegram channel. I'm really trying to build both of those up. The Substack's really taken off. The Telegram's taken a little while to get going, but if you could go follow me there. I'm not even allowed on Twitter. Reed Coverdale is banned. He can't come back, at least not publicly. So please follow me on those. And anyway, I've got a returning guest to the show. I've never had him on one-on-one. I kind of had him on with his buddies from the Lions of Liberty, and I say I kind of had him on because it was a sort of rough show. I was in a truck stop in Wyoming, didn't have very good service, had like a 4-second delay. It was a clusterfuck of a conversation. He is Brian McWilliams and I don't even know, his show is changing like every 4 days. Like it used to be Electric Liberty Land, and now it's Mean Age Daydream. So I don't know what's going on there, but I get him mixed up. It's the same thing basically. But how you doing, Brian?
It's all good, man. No, I'm great, brother. Good to see you again. We saw each other so recently that I feel like what do we got to talk about? We already hashed all these things out.
I know. I mean, if someone could have just carried a camera around and filmed us talking at Freedom Fest and at Reno, that was a lot of content, and it was good. It was fun. It was funny. It was interesting. It was controversial. It was all the above. So we really missed out on a lot of opportunity there. Sadly,
well, the lesson here is that we need more groupies that just follow us around. Gaggles, packs. We could give them a name, like a clever nickname. The Naturals Daydreamers. We'll merge the two together. It'll be awesome, man. Yeah. But yeah, so thanks for having me on. Absolutely,
man. I think your show should have been Electric Liberty Land today, though. You had a little electrical fire almost in the outlet.
Dude. Yeah, well, it was like, I was telling you before the show, I was running around because my outlet just like, I heard a pop, and I was like, oh, that's probably not great. But, I'm an old person now, so it could have been my body. It could have been the wall. It could have been anything. Turns out it was the outlet. And I also like smelled a little smoke. But again, I'm like walking around my house sniffing. It's like find the smell, everybody's favorite game. And I'm sniffing around. And then finally I'm like, oh, shit. OK, it's this outlet. Call the electricity people. They come out. They tell me it's definitely the outlet. You got to replace it. So I did that. And yeah, we'll see. We'll see if I die. We'll see if you see flames, you see my green screen go up behind me. If you see me just start shaking uncontrollably, it means that I've touched a live wire because I fixed it like a man for the first time ever in my life. First time doing anything manly for that matter in my life.
With manly tasks, there's like a sliding scale of how quickly you are made aware of the fact that you did something incorrectly. So if you like frame a wall incorrectly, it might last, a couple decades before you're like, oh shit, I didn't do that right. Or if you pour concrete, it might last a while. There are other things like A great one is shifting a transmission in a truck. If you make a mistake, the truck lets you know pretty quickly. You get this loud grinding noise, and you're like, whoa, okay, fuck. Electrical mistakes are usually pretty quick on the return as far as the notification that you didn't do it correctly. So
I'm keeping my smeller open. You know, that's the thing. I'm just going to keep it open for the smoke smells, keep looking up and looking for sparks in the outlets. It seems okay so far. But my house is also old as dirt. Like, I was looking at the wiring up in the attic, and it's like old wiring wrapped in like, cheesecloth or something. It's so bizarre. It literally looks like all the wiring's wearing a sweater. It's not like wiring like you have in 2022. It's like wiring from 1912. It's terrifying. Like, I don't even like to think about it. It's just a fire. It was like, did they design these wires to catch on fire? Is what it looks like.
Yeah, I mean, it was so funny. I used to work at this lumber yard, and there was a building that they didn't want to set an extra pole and run the wires around the building to the transformer, you know, and like rig it to the next building over. They just ran the wires in between the rafters in the building, and then the building wasn't built properly. This was at a building supply place. It wasn't just a lumber yard. Like, they had building supplies, and they had
the irony of the building supply building being built terribly.
And then it's the rafters ended up sagging enough that they ended up rubbing on the secondary wires, and it burned the whole building down.
Wow.
So yeah, I mean, you never know if it's just someone cutting corners or if it's just someone who doesn't know what they're doing, but you know, mistakes can be disastrous. That's all I got to say. So.
Well, I've heard Elon Musk, you know, what he's got going at SpaceX is a little bit of that slapdash, like the way they put stuff together. Like, they're moving rocket parts along like hallways, you know, through lunchrooms, just like girders on the ceiling, and they just kind of ramp them along. Like, you ever seen the way they move missiles and submarines, you know, and on boats, like they slide them along the girders. They're like doing stuff like that. And he's like, no one's watching. It's fine. So soon enough, you're going to see SpaceX just blast into the atmosphere. The entire like structure is just going to take off and explode like the Challenger. Too soon, maybe, for Challenger references. I don't know. Don't know what the status on that is.
Well, speaking of too soon, we have a death, and I wanted to comment on it quickly. Ayman al-Zawahiri, who I probably honestly would have no idea who that was if I hadn't had Scott Horton on my show a ton of times, because he always talks about him. I knew that was the leader of Al-Qaeda, but Brian, how many people do you think even know who that is? Like, when they're seeing this headline, do they have any idea who this guy is or what's going on, what country he's from, what Al-Qaeda is, any of it?
I didn't know. I mean, and it's like, you know, I try to keep in the news, but it's been so long since we were actively going after Al-Qaeda. I would have no idea who this guy was, other than I saw like it flashed up that he was dead, and I was like, all right, well, I presume he's a terrorist. And maybe shame on me, by the way. You know, like, I read this guy's name, and I'm like, he's been killed, and I was like, what if he was a charitable man? You know, I was like, ran 17 orphanages. I'm like, whoops, it looks like I'm the dickhead. But no, I figured he's Al-Qaeda, and I'm reading, it's like, I guess they killed him with a drone strike. I guess he was a former surgeon, and now has been running Al-Qaeda. And dude, I just got to tell you, this Fox News article is what I'm looking at now, because I Googled it right before the show, or right, you know, before we were getting into it. And it said that, this is the quote, and this is from Lindsey Graham. Congratulations to the Biden administration and all those brave Americans involved in the successful counterterrorism operation against Al-Qaeda leader Ayman al-Zawahiri, said Graham. This is a significant event in the war on terror. All those involved have delivered a strong message that America never forgets. Fine. Except, are we forgetting that all of this shit happens in the first place because these people have not forgotten what America's done to them and their country over the, you know, the past 50 years. Like, I'm sure America's never going to forget. Neither are generations of people that live in these areas that we've been bombing and overthrowing governments and doing all these, you know, CIA ops in.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, at least we got Osama bin Laden 10 years after 9/11, and then we get his second in command, you know, what has it been, 11 years since Osama bin Laden was killed. But, you know, there were just like 2 million people in between that, you know, who had nothing to do with it at all. So, you know, just, I mean, that's the price you pay for accuracy. You know, there's going to be some mistakes. There's going to be a couple, you know, misfires here and there. And that's how you end up with 2 million people dead, I guess.
It's like if you went to the dentist and he's like, all right, I got to get this cavity out, but you might lose about 8 to 12 teeth in the meantime before I get that bad boy. It's just, I got to see how this thing works. Just dropping little drills in you.
Yeah, no,
yeah,
I mean,
what do you think's going to happen now? Do you know? Because I don't know. I haven't heard Horton talk about this that much. So is there somebody, is it next man up mentality like with football teams? Is there somebody that's just going to step right up? Like at this point, is it just whack-a-mole? I mean,
yeah, well, I think that's the only guy that Biden's going to get, because I think Biden's going to be a one-term president. And the way we've been doing this so far is each administration gets one guy, right? Like Obama gets Osama bin Laden, Trump got al-Baghdadi, and now Biden has gotten Zawahiri. So whoever the next guy is, President DeSantis is going to take him out or whatever. But speaking of that, I love the difference in the three speeches. Obama's just like, our forces took out Osama bin Laden last night. It's all like super clean cut and professional. And then Trump is just like, he died like a dog. He was on his hands and knees begging for his life and we killed him. And then Biden's just like, we took out Ozawa. You got to watch the speech, dude. It's such a painful limp that he's getting through with. It's just like, oh my God. But
I'm sure. At this point, there's that conspiracy theory that Biden had already been replaced. And I don't think there's anything to it, but that an actor was doing it. Why would they not just have him go up and just start doing it, like literally just opening his mouth and have somebody else doing a Biden impersonation? I think that would be a better option than this, but it'd be clearer. I mean, he's so mush-mouthed, you wouldn't even know. You would have no idea. He could even miss, he could say the word at a different time, like in old Kung Fu movies. So people would be like, that's probably that's a dementia thing. That's probably us interpreting his dementia incorrectly. We're seeing what we want to see. But yeah, man, I do like the idea that every president gets one terrorist, and the timing of it, of course, when Biden's got the lowest approval ratings of any president, I think at this point in his term in history. Bring out the terrorist kills.
Yeah,
man.
Yeah, that's kind of how they do it. He's trying to distract from the fact that he's about to start a second proxy war with the second biggest nuclear threat to us. So he already did it with Russia, and now he's going to go ahead and do it with China. And the funny thing is seeing all these Republicans on Twitter say that they're willing to go to war over China shooting down Nancy Pelosi. It's like, that's what you're going to go fight for? Like, I think if anything, we should be sending Xi Jinping a thank you letter if he actually does that. That's my thought.
Amen, man. I think that, I want to see more of our senators and all this stuff leading dangerous missions, really antagonizing our foreign enemies. And then it's kind of like the old days. And let's get back to the gladiatorial era, right? Can we put Nancy Pelosi in a fighter plane against, one of their old commie shitbags and just let them dogfight it out of the air? It'll be awesome TV. All of us will get a kick out of it. But no, I mean, seriously, number one, if you're going over there, Nancy Pelosi, you're doing it as a clear antagonism. So, okay, number one, don't poke the bear. And then, number two, the vast portion of America, I think even Democrats probably would be fine with Nancy Pelosi dying to keep the rest of us out of a civil war or out of a nuclear war. So I don't know. I mean, why beat the war drums over somebody that's got maybe 7 years left to live? What is she, like 85? 82?
Yeah, well, you're a California guy. Is she running for re-election this year, or is she done?
She said she is. Yeah, no, she said she was going to be done after this term. And then, of course, now, because the world is always in such dire straits, no, she's going to run for another term. And I think she is literally like in her 80s.
Yeah. So when does Brian finally give up on California? You guys reelected Newsom, right? Like you didn't do the recall.
He didn't get recalled. He didn't get reelected though. Yeah, he still has to fight for reelection. But then again, he might resign because if he runs for president, you can't do governor and president at the same time. So maybe it'll be a DeSantis situation where he'll go into the presidency because that's what people are talking about. But no, he didn't get recalled. I think he might have if Larry Elder hadn't entered the race, because Larry Elder was a high-profile conservative. Now, granted, he's a black dude, so people were like, all right, black conservative, he's from here, at least they can't play the race card. They were wrong because the LA Times called him the blackface of white supremacy. But if he hadn't run, I think Gavin Newsom actually would have gotten recalled. But the problem was, and this is kind of like the thing with Trump and Biden, right? And I 100% don't think Biden's going to run again. I think they're intentionally taking him out. We could talk a little bit about that if you want. But with Larry Elder in the race, it gave them somebody to say, hey, that's the evil guy. Don't vote for him because X, Y, and Z. Whereas if it was just Gavin Newsom versus a couple other Democrats, that nobody might have ever heard of, but, whatever, he probably would have gotten replaced with just some other shitty Democrat. But he would have been out of office. So.
Yeah. So, I mean, you didn't recall Newsom, and now you might reelect Pelosi. Like, after that, man, I think there's no hope for your state. Like, it's not turning around. You're just like a little island of liberty stuck in California. I mean, are you guys going to like create a free county in California? Well, it's probably not going to happen in your county, but are you guys going to like just like make a neighborhood in Southern California that's like, hey, we're cool here and we're going to nullify all county laws that we don't like? What's the plan? Like, how do you survive?
That sounds pretty good to me. I mean, actually, I say where I live in Hawthorne, that's kind of got to start on it because there's got areas like my street is not policed by the Hawthorne Police Department or the LA County Police Department. It's actually by the Sheriff's Department, which is kind of interesting. And I guess if somebody's robbing my house urgently, it's kind of a pain in the ass to get the sheriffs to come out. But it's interesting that, okay, maybe I can start from there. I'll talk to the sheriffs, we'll work out our own little laws, community. I'll break off, I'll make some flags. But yeah, I don't know, man. It's something, it's like anything. What's the reward? What's the risk? Having to uproot, get new jobs, like my wife would have to get a new job because she works at like physical locations and stuff and like these big furniture installations. Mm-hmm. For me, I don't know, maybe it's still, we'll see what happens the next couple of years. If the taxes keep going up, if the homeless, start to overrun us fully, because my neighborhood is also well policed in that they don't let the homeless set up camps, that I might say goodbye because their house is worth an astronomical amount now because everything in LA is inflationary. So
yeah. You could sell your house in California and then buy like 4 of them in Missouri or something, right?
Legitimately, yeah. And with basements. Nobody has fucking basements in LA, and it drives me nuts. It's so much space. I need that space to put my crap in, man. I need my sex dungeon down there. I can't. What do I do? A sex garage? It's not the same.
If I lived in
too much sound dampening in there.
Yeah, if I lived in Arizona or somewhere where they just do all slabs, I would say no. Just put a basement in anyway. There's so much utility to a basement. I don't care if I don't need a frost wall. Like, I don't care if the ground doesn't freeze and doesn't whatever. Like, just still put it in because it's so much extra space. Turns every single story house into a 2-story house, and people just don't really. People. You're from Pennsylvania, right? Or yeah. So you get it. Like, no one understands how much extra room that is.
The amount of just glory time you can have down there. It's like a great place to put your children where nobody can hear them scream.
Right.
They can beat the crap out of each other. But yeah, man, it pisses me off. But I know you're New Hampshire. I don't know. If I moved, I don't know if I now would go back to somewhere cold or if it would be like, Florida, go somewhere like the free state of Florida type deal or leave the country altogether. Like my wife and I were talking about like that Mega Millions lottery was like $1 billion. And of course we got like $30 of tickets, like every idiot. Cause you think, oh, this is the time to win. Inevitably we're going to win this. And
Ryan has a case for gambling. I saw this firsthand in Vegas a couple weeks ago.
When I lost every blackjack hand in a row. But then I made my money back on roulette late night. So that was good. But yeah, man, I don't know. We would leave the country probably.
Yeah.
Well, but I don't know. Like, do you think, and Tangela, you're on the ground there. Do you think that the libertarian kind of thrust to get a state that's more free than others, do you think it's actually worked in New Hampshire?
Yeah, I think it has. So this assault weapons ban that just passed the House, and everyone's, adamant that it won't pass the Senate. It's like 2 Republicans in the House didn't bother to vote against it. There's only 1 Republican that doesn't have to vote in the Senate, and then it passes. Like, I don't know, like maybe it won't pass, but it totally could be 50-50. There could be a tiebreaker with Kamala Harris. I'm not even convinced all the Republicans will vote against it in the Senate or, even show up. So
I'm not either.
Could even be less than 50-50. Anyways, if that passes, New Hampshire has passed a law that does not, or it basically makes it so that New Hampshire law enforcement is not required to carry out federal gun control laws. So we got to bring it to the next step and make it so that state law enforcement has to kick out federal law enforcement if they come in and try to do something. But as of right now, even if this bill passes, all the state troopers and town police and everyone in New Hampshire, they're not going to have to do anything. They're not allowed to do anything. Like the state and town police are not allowed to enforce federal gun control laws. And in New Hampshire, we've nullified all the gun control laws for the state. Like that's not nullifying them, but we've just abolished them. We got rid of them. So there is one example where you're like, yeah, it does make a difference. I mean, if you live even in a red state, they're not doing that shit in some of them. Some of them, like I think Missouri is Second Amendment, sanctuary state, and then a couple others.
Yeah, there's a few others that have done similar measures I've heard of. Not enforcing it and actually combating like federal.
Yeah. So I think it does make a difference, and New Hampshire's small enough. And the other thing is like this high trust society that we have here. You've been to Pork Fest, you know what it's like driving through New Hampshire, like lots of farmland, lots of farm stands where you can just buy food with cash, drop it in a box, take it, lots of honors systems going on. Like trying to start Ancapistan in Portland right now, you get Chaz, like that's the only type of anarchy you can achieve here. But in New Hampshire, people are kind of already set up for it with their mindset and everything. So I think I think there's potential for it. So would you consider New Hampshire? Is that something Brian McWilliams would think about? Or
maybe, I don't know. It would take some convincing.
They got basements, man, everywhere.
Yeah, I know. You do got the best basements. I don't know. It would take some convincing of my wife. That's always what it comes down to, man. Is once you've got the family and the kids and they're ingrained and embedded in like their world, it's hard to move. It's hard to move them. But I'm not saying no. It's. Things could get very bad very quickly.
I'm not going to lie. Hampton Beach is no Malibu. Like it's
right.
Malibu's way nicer. So you guys you guys have the geography there in California. I've been to every state, all 50 of them, and no state is, as varied in amazing geography as California. You guys got everything: redwoods, mountains, lakes, ocean, deserts. Anything your heart desires, it's all there.
Yeah, it's not bad. Well, and also I have a little bit of faith in California righting the ship slightly. Now, it's always going to be douchey, especially where I am, but I think that things are going to push back the other way. Like I've seen just in conversations, like, I work in public relations and I've done entertainment stuff, and a lot of my clients are entertainment. A lot of my wife's clients are entertainment companies and like the frou-frouest of the design firms and stuff. But they are now talking about how shit's just gotten pushed too far. Especially with the CRT stuff in schools. Yeah. With like the transgender, like pushing this transgender, like, the little kids constantly, that stuff that impacts people on a personal level with their children or with their, their businesses and success, like the lockdowns. Recently, I couldn't believe it, but I'll take it as a win. They were going to put a new mask mandate in starting yesterday for LA County. And enough towns, enough cities, enough mayors, and everybody pushed back and said, we're not going to comply, go fuck yourself, that LA County just said, all right, fine. Now they're pretending that it has to do with case rates. It doesn't. It is 100% a will of the people saying, we're not going to take this anymore. We're not going to do it. You've ruined our lives enough. So I think they've tactically pushed too far. So I'm excited to see what's going to happen. Now watch, in November, it's going to be the same old crap, and I'll be like, all right, well, time to put the gun in my mouth. But for now, I hope springs eternal. That's the daydream, and me and Age daydream.
Well, you can't put a gun in your mouth because they're not allowed, right? You got to.
Well, I got mine already.
Creative way to take yourself out.
Well, they tried to cap the number of bullets I can have in my magazine, but that got overturned. So I can still buy a bigger magazine again, too, in case I missed the first few times trying to shoot myself, which is very possible.
That'd be an interesting study to do, like see how people in California commit suicide compared to other states, because, a lot of people who commit suicide, well, I guess most of them probably already own the guns, right? Like you usually probably don't go buy a gun to commit suicide.
Just to kill yourself? That seems like a waste, right? Yeah. I think it's got to be pills. Either that or the number of people, by the way, the number of celebrities, which is why like talking about this whole conspiracy about celebrities and child pedophile rings and stuff, like lead singers of bands, what's the guy from Soundgarden, Chris Cornell. He was a big like fighting against pedophile rings in the entertainment biz guy, and then he ends up dead. They all die in the same way, which is they hang themselves on a doorknob with a scarf, like a red scarf or red handkerchief, which is just a bizarre, and all of them the same way, found the same way. And if you're going to hang yourself from a doorknob,
like how short are they? They got to like fall over and like,
like Anthony Bourdain died that way. And it's like, dude, it's like 6'4". Like my head comes higher than the doorknob if I sit down. I'm 6'3". How do you kill yourself that way? I don't know. But anyway, that's how apparently a lot of people kill themselves doorknob hanging, exposing pedophiles. So
it seems like if there are no guns, the study would be interesting, seeing all the creative ways. Because I consider that creative. Like if you're gonna go out like and you do it in a creative way, like it's a little bit more respect. It's like, okay, like you killed yourself, ultimately a shitty move, but at least you thought about it and you had to like plan it out. I don't know. It's a little, it's almost like deserving of more respect than just putting a gun in your mouth. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, they have that suicide forest in Japan. Maybe that's a good place. Although there's probably hangings, but I think there's a little bit of everything. They should go investigate, just do a count.
Yeah, the most interesting suicides are the ones of Hillary Clinton's former clients or former friends or whatever. Like there's like 2 rifle shots to the back of the head. Suicide.
Right.
I find those,
yeah, I know. God. It's even better than hanging us up by a doorknob. Like, well, we walked in his house. It's like it's got like a Rube Goldberg setup. There's like a ping pong ball that has to fall into a mouse trap that then goes across and triggers to shoot you in the back of the head. Really making it. That should be a competition. The most creative ways, and you can have 2 teams come up with really creative ways to kill people, and and again, not that I'm an advocate of people killing themselves.
No,
I think it's a terrible move, but
unless
but
you're
if you're gonna, well, Nancy Pelosi, maybe that's her creative suicide move. She's like, I've had enough. I'm just gonna fly over Taiwan and piss China off. Get them to kill me. Go out a hero.
Well, we got to admit that is creative. Like, I mean, of all the ways to kill yourself, starting World War III with China is a creative way to take yourself out.
Yeah. Although, did you see all these people talking about Nancy Pelosi and her giant honking boobs?
I did not. I missed this, luckily.
There was some post she posted, and I guess I never noticed before because I can't stop looking at her haggard, melting, like a music video for Tool melting.
Yeah, she looks like one of the Nazis in Raiders of the Lost Ark. Like halfway.
Totally. Yeah, she's opening. She took a little peek in the Ark and then closed it before she could fully melt, but she got like a third of the way through. But apparently, she's got these big tits, and all these people on the internet were like sharing this picture, and they were right. They were huge. So maybe she's going to go over China, and when the fighter planes come next to her, like in the Top Gun, they'll flip over top, and then she'll flash them over top of the other cockpit, and the guys will be like, oh, and then just crash into the sea, and that'll disarm China and their nuclear weaponry.
Hey, it's kind of a genius plan. Maybe that's been what they're thinking all along. Like maybe Pelosi is the actual hero here, leading to nuclear de-escalation by flashing. That would be a twist.
Crazier things have happened, man. Crazier things have happened.
I don't know about that.
This is why the screenplay I wrote for her got rejected. Top Gun 3. They're not going to make it.
So, man, when we were at Reno and when we were at Freedom Fest, like I felt like it was mostly wherever you were, because if I was with somebody else, it wasn't necessarily the case. But wherever you and I were, that was where the fun was. It was always like, oh, let's go check out the pool. Let's go do something fun. And then there were these guys that just wanted to suck you into these corners and talk about like, Austrian economics or homesteading theory or something. And you're like, dude, we are in a room with thousands of libertarians. The last thing I want to do is start talking about theory. Like this is where we're supposed to act kind of normally, because we're all here together and we're actually meeting each other in real life. But the autism just holds everybody down, and it comes in different levels. We talked about this at Freedom Fest. Like I consider myself someone who's like not actually that, socially exciting,
functional.
Functional. Yeah. Like I'm, when I'm in a big crowd, I'm, not necessarily in my element. I kind of like go stand in the corner and find someone to talk to or whatever. But when I'm at these events, I feel like the highest functioning, most socially aware, polite, conversational person around. It's terrifying. Like people will come up to you and just like stare at you and start talking about how much like I've seen your show before. I really like it. I like this one. Like, cool, man. All right, cool. Thanks. Nice to meet you. And then they just like keep talking about it. Like, I wanted to hear your thought on this other show that I heard 2 years ago. And I've been thinking about it every night. And I want to hear what you think. And it's just like, dude, just like write me an email or something. Like, this isn't what I want to be doing here. But what is that? Why are there so many autists in the liberty movement? And why are you not one? You're kind of the exception to the rule. Like wherever you are, the lack of autism just draws people and creates, flowing conversation and fun times and, kind of kills the doom and gloom. But what is that? Why do you think that exists? And why are you an antidote to that in the liberty movement?
I'll take that as a good compliment. Thank you, man.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
Yeah, so I was thinking about this a lot. Whether it's just like I was thinking about conventions specifically because when you told me the topic for the show, had a good laugh. But then I was like, I wonder if just we're not seeing the rampant autism that exists in other parties so much because their public facing people are like they have enough of the numbers that their public facing people are not the autists. Whereas for us, we're like, well, we take what we can get. We got to throw some of these people out there, but. Because like I do wonder, like we saw the Democratic Socialists of America, their whole meeting and motions, and they're stopping things because they were triggered and people were speaking too loudly into this and that, and they couldn't clap. You had to, I don't know, give thumbs up because you were going to scare some of the autists. So I do wonder if they just are out there, but we just don't have the numbers. So when we go to these conventions, that's just where they are, and we just happen to have a high proportion of them. But at the same time, I mean, I do think there's something to. Like I think a lot of people that have like a little bit of an autistic mindset, they like to problem solve. They like to solve puzzles. They're into conspiracies because again, it's puzzles. And libertarianism is a lot of problem solving. It's a lot of looking at something and trying to figure out the puzzle. How did the puzzle come together, and how can we take it apart and build something new with the puzzle pieces we've got? And I think that challenge draws a lot of people in, as well as it's like. It is a deep philosophy, and you get in the weeds, and then a lot of these people probably don't have anybody else to talk to in life. So when they see a gentleman like yourself walking around with a fine beard or mustache, they are drawn in like a tractor beam. And to your point, though, the problem is when we are in this environment where everybody is of the same mindset. Yeah, liberty is the last thing we should be talking about outside of a panel, and should just be relaxed and talking about whatever the fuck else goes into our brains.
Right.
And, when you talk about, I guess the way I go about it is I intentionally, when I talk to people and interact with people at these conventions, number one, I think a lot of idol worship also comes into play. People listen to your show, they build up a mindset about you and the way you are, and they hold you at this pedestal. So they're intimidated, people that are already socially awkward, right? So they're intimidated, and they feel that the only way they can connect with you is by showing you that they can understand what you're saying and pay homage to the throne, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to send the wrong message. When people come up to me and tell me, hey, I love your show, that's great. I really do appreciate it, and it means a lot. It's just, I've noticed like hanging out with way higher profile people than me. The reason they like hanging out with me is because I just treat them like a normal person, and I don't like always talk about their show, and like I just can talk about other shit. So like I don't know, it's a constant issue, like not just like at the conventions, not just meeting show hosts. Libertarians have a problem in general of like letting go of something that doesn't fit within their narrow view of life. So some guy who, I don't know, who has a thin blue line flag in his front yard, like they wouldn't be able to go have a friendly conversation with that guy. And then, maybe try to find some areas of agreement. Like, dude, I remember this was such an amazing moment. It was actually when I was on Tulsi's campaign, and it was at the Democrat convention it was in Manchester, New Hampshire. And so there were like the Bernie people and the Elizabeth Warren people and the Buttigieg, like all these people in different groups on the property where the convention was being held. And then across the street, there was this Trump guy who wasn't allowed on the property, but he could, set up his thing over there. So he had like all these Israel flags and all these thin blue line flags and everything. And so I was just like, oh, I'll just go talk to him. So I walked across the street, and I was wearing a Tulsi shirt, and I just shook his hand and said, hey, man, I'm impressed that you're out here, practicing your First Amendment rights. I think that's cool. And just started having a friendly conversation with him. And by the end of the conversation, he wanted to know more about Tulsi. He was like, you're the only person who came over to me and wasn't just berating me and telling me what an awful, horrible Nazi I am or whatever. I was like, hey, man, that's how we all got to start. But I think that is also a problem with libertarians, because the autistic tendency is if there's anything that's out of line, you can't ignore it and then just go for the bigger prize at the given time. Like, you have to fix that little inconsistency. But yeah, I don't know. Any comments on that?
No, I agree. And I think that's one of the issues that we've had. And hopefully that's going to change with kind of the change leadership in the party is bigger, trying to emphasize bigger picture thinking and not this minutia. Right. Like the focus on the minutia and the focus on let's get every detail right and fight for everyone. It's no, get the bigger picture in line and let stuff go. Be like, focus more on, again, commonality, focus on things that are not necessarily going to cause a deep divide. And to your point, lead with a smile, man. I mean, like so many people, they just are so self-serious. Like I was talking about this actually, the panel I did at Freedom Fest. We are so self-serious. Maybe not you and I. You and I kind of can laugh at ourselves and call ourselves the jerk-offs we are. But, so many libertarians, they just think that they're the philosophical, guiding light. They're the shining star in the sky, and that libertarianism is the only way to think. And if you don't think that way, then clearly you're an idiot and should be derided. And they can't joke about themselves. Like the number one way you could get people to like you and appreciate you is by doing self-deprecating humor, to let people know right off the bat, look, I don't take myself that seriously, so I'm not going to come at you and be a threat. I'm not going to, if I say something as a joke to you, I'll laugh at myself too. It's disarming to people. And libertarians never joke about ourselves. Yeah, well, not never. So some of us do. The high functioning autists among us do. But again, working in a little bit of that, working a little bit of look, acknowledge that we have a philosophy we believe in, but it's largely untested in a lot of arenas. It's scary to a lot of people. So let's have a little joke about it. Let's acknowledge that. Let's laugh about this fucking crap and not just talk about it and show people that we're humans beyond this, Murray Rothbard suit of paperback armor that we wear everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we always like to say everyone else is living in a cult. They haven't had the blinders lifted from their eyes. They're just following their false gods. And, it's like, well, a lot of us kind of do that type of shit too. Like we live in an alternate reality. We never if all you do is read Murray Rothbard and Hoppe and Mises and whatever, and you never go out and talk to normal people or know anything about how any people's normal lives day to day are, what good are you? I mean, you're just you're no different. You're no different than someone just reading some holy book out in the woods. You're just a hermit like all those guys. So I don't really understand what has been gained unless you're actively making a difference with normal people and showing them that your ideas work because you're a normal person and you actually have to live that way too. This is the other thing. A lot of libertarians, they're living in their mom's basements. Yeah. And they're saying as soon as the Federal Reserve is ended, then I'll be financially stable and then I can buy a house. They sound like democratic socialists. As soon as I have, universal health care, then I'll be able to do this. And
right. We can't get into the mode of being a federalist victim culture. Right. I guess the way to look at it, instead of saying the white man kept me down or, the patriarchy kept me down, we're the state governments keep me down. And look, it is keeping us down, but people can succeed without having to do that. And to your point, lead by example is such a huge thing. We try to be these entrepreneurs and tell people oh, here's the way to run your business and your life and handle this and that. And then you go out there and you're how many of you guys are owning a business? How many of you have enough money to get to a convention and leave it, and still be able to pay rent? And I think there is a distinct lack of creativity in a way. And whether this comes from the autistic urge, because, autism is very logic based. And libertarianism is very logic-based in many ways, but the creativity can come in weird ways with autism, and I'm waiting for us to find those kind of autists. I was joking on Twitter today, and of course I spelled it wrong, and I couldn't fix it because Twitter doesn't allow you to edit it, but I tweeted out, the greatest comedian the world has ever seen is going to be an autistic guy who can, taste the jokes and, and see the laughter. Because they've got that kind of crazy shit sometimes. Where are these super autists that we can come to, break through with some messaging and some comedy and get that out there?
Yeah.
Can we get a breeding program going?
That's a good point. I hung out a lot with Dan Smots at the convention and then at PorkFest. And I started realizing however many thousand libertarians we just have one guy who's really good at making videos. Right. Sorry out there if there is another guy, but he is the guy who is known as the video maker in the Libertarian Party.
And the guy who did my Mean Age Daydream logo behind me.
Oh,
that's Dan's work.
Or Top Lobster is the guy who does artwork. And I mean, and it's not like this is the guy in the New Hampshire Libertarian Party or the guy in South Florida. It's like the entire liberty movement across the whole country, like thousands of us. It's like remarkably few people who actually have these skills and these artistic abilities. It is kind of shocking if you think about it.
I mean, it is, man. And this is why. So like part of the transition for my show from Electric Liberty Land to Mean Age Daydream was I'm trying to change the way that I talk about things in the liberty movement and like overall philosophy to be less whiny, less bitching about current events. That's still a big part of the show because I'm an asshole and I like to bitch about stuff. But I want to give people, I want to give people like a more philosophical message of like inspiration of like here's the future as we can lay it out. Try to be funny, try to be likable, but like here's something to believe in, and it doesn't have to be necessarily 100% true. It doesn't have to be something that I can say, look, here's all the Lego pieces, I can build this house over here. No, there's gonna be a dragon. And there's going to be a castle. And there's going to be a fairy princess in it. Because that's how you get people. You build myths, right? You build things that people can believe in. They go, shit, that castle with that very fuckable princess looks like a great place to live. And right now, what we're pitching people is that we're going to take away a lot of the free crap. And we're going to take away, I don't know, the trolls that fuck you for free from the government. And we're going to replace it with, I don't know, you could go out and maybe try to get laid at a bar. Right? We're not really selling people a dream. And that, I think, is also going to help bring in creative people. Because the most creative people out there are on the left, right? That's just the way they flock. They all flock left. But they're also the people that believe in the biggest horse shit, right? They're the people that are like, we got to have full-blown socialism. Everybody shouldn't have to work. We're going to tear down, like AOC, we're going to tear down all the buildings and build, green bunkers, bunkers as high as the sky can see. They believe
you won't have to work. Well, we're gonna rebuild all the buildings, but you don't have to work.
Yeah, you don't have to work. You don't have to work. Well, they'll force you to work rebuilding the buildings, but then you can take time off. But they believe the dumbest shit, man. But they're the most creative people. We got to sell them a better dream. We got to sell them a better dream to be in, to believe in. And once we get that, you're going to get all these creative people coming over and going, all right, I kind of dig this. I see where you're coming from. Let me apply my creative brain to it. Until we do that,
I mean, you think about like Trump. It's just this super simple message, build the wall, or Bernie Sanders, like super simple message, Medicare for all. It all ends with all. So that's what we got to work on. We got to come up with some libertarian slogan that's just 3 words long and the Fed doesn't do it. That's.
I had one.
Yeah.
Wait, I literally, I was walking my dog. So I was listening to the Machiavellians on audiobook, right? Which is a good book. And Pareto was talking about how these, it's like all the best slogans, all the best, and even like, Hitler. I'll drop a Hitler reference on your show and make sure the SPLC comes after you again. But even Hitler had said like the best slogans, the best propaganda is short and simple to understand, and you have to repeat it constantly, right? But there's a lot of truth to that. And I was thinking of like a slave, basically like how people are slaves. I think, here we go. Stop being used. All right. How about that for a simple, powerful phrase? Stop being used. Right? Nobody likes to be used. Everybody can think of ways they're being used. All the government does is tax you. All it does is tell you how to raise your kids. All it does is make sure that you are basically fodder for the machine going out and flying Nancy Pelosi to China. Like that I think strikes an emotional chord and tells people like your purpose in this world right now is purely to be used by the system and part of the machine. So come up with a few phrases like that. That one's a little negative, but positive shit. Keep it short.
Yeah, I mean, the funny thing is our message is literally free, right? Like the other people try to act like what they're giving you is free. We are saying like, the problem is we do have a lot of hurdles to overcome, but what we're ultimately giving you is freedom, where these other things, like they sound good, but it's actually more captivity. But we can't message it in a good way that doesn't sound like "fuck you, you suck."
Yeah.
I mean, that's the biggest problem.
Well, I think too, it's like, and this is another thing that came up in the panel. I was like, how do we convince people not to be scared of what we're telling them? Right. Because it is terrifying. I mean, you were talking about taking away a lot of services, removing the ways in which they have always understood the world to function. So like trying to change that message, like don't be scared to be free. Type of things, like put it on them to think about, I am living a life of terror. And that's why I also try to emphasize on my show a lot. The government exists to cause pain and fear. That is literally all that they do. It's pain and it's fear. Pain in every interaction you do with them. Like even the positive stuff. If you want to go and get your money, your tax refund. All right, I'm getting money back. Still hugely painful, hugely terrifying to file with the IRS. I think you're going to get investigated. If you're on the welfare dole, you still got to go deal with the government, spend your time. It's agony to deal with it. And then you get your paycheck. Then you got to go do it all again. And in the meantime, you're terrified they're going to take your benefits away. It's all fear and pain. It's how governments run. It's how they operate. It's how they grow. So again, using that like negative of think about how much pain you're in. And then with the positive, don't be scared to be free. Trying to apply those things, I think is going to be powerful. And I'm curious to see what happens with the messaging on the national level. Like I know Reed Cooley just got hired as their messaging director. So we'll see what Reed could put together. Maybe the Reeds can have a mind, a mental, I don't know, Reed weaving.
Yeah, I don't know what I mean.
A mind reading.
Mind reading. Come on, it's no better than that. I mean, yeah, Reed and I, we have a lot of similarities. Reed it's both our middle names, spelled the same way, not gay with an I.
That's the worst. Yeah.
We actually went through this at Freedom Fest. There's a whole bunch of shit that was just like, what? No way. But yeah, no, that's a great move for the Libertarian Party. But yeah, man, like, I think that we keep wondering, like, why can't we grow? Why can't we get bigger? Why aren't more people coming to our cause? We're just not like articulating this, in enough detail or telling them enough, statistics or whatever. It's like, I really don't think that's the issue. I think it's mostly that we're basically unfuckable in more ways than one. Like we're a bunch of incels, but we're also like, no one wants to fuck with us. No one wants to come near us. They're just like, no, like you guys don't give off good vibes. So I think it's mostly about the persona we have, mostly about the positivity, and mostly about giving hope. Like that's why Ron Paul was so successful. Like we all keep wondering, like, why weren't these other people who ran nearly as successful as Ron Paul? But Ron Paul was like extremely happy and hopeful. And, I've had him on my show. And even when I had him on a few months ago, the war in Ukraine was taking off and everything looked super bleak. And he was just like, oh, I'm optimistic. You guys really care about this, and you're really going to, you're really going to make huge changes, and, like go off and do it and have fun while you do it. And I don't know, like that's just something we're missing now. But
dude, totally. Well, talking about, circling back to like wherever we were having a good time, where we were was where people were laughing, having fun. Like, that's where like Matt and Terry Kibbe, they're a lot of fun. If you met them at Freedom Fest, obviously, but if your audience knows them, they're a hell of a lot of fun. They are good sense of humor. They like to drink. When they're around, you're having a good time. And there is something to say about like the party aspect of political parties. People want to go to where the party is happening, where the party's fun. And right now the Libertarian Party's not fun. Maybe it's going to be, but like even like we're talking about, we're in Vegas. There were a few people out, hanging out, getting drunk, partying, but nowhere near as many as you'd think would be hanging out, having fun, partying, not having conversations that anybody would pass by and want to take part in 90% of the time. Yeah. So emphasize, not that I'm saying people have to go and get hammered all the time, but maybe that would help.
Go get drunk, and then we'll win in 2024. That's what all the libertarians need to go get drunk, get hammered, go to Vegas.
Every libertarian, if you become a libertarian, I think that they should send you a free drink token, applicable. Like, well, they had a network of bars, and that's how you get people started. And then, of course, we'll have a new libertarian AAA that isn't strictly based in like religious dogma.
So have you forgiven yourself for buying a $75 steak or whatever the hell that thing cost, or was it worth it, do you think? Because I still wrestle with that.
It was good. It was really good. Well, I had a bite of yours the night before. We went to the same steakhouse 2 nights in a row in Vegas at the Mirage, and it was delicious. No, it was worth it, man. I don't mind. I do not mind paying for food and alcohol that's high express, and drugs. Those are my three: food, alcohol, and drugs that are high quality. Because you're like, I mean, food's an experience, right? I can remember distinctly meals more than I can remember people, over the course of a life. There's meals that stand out to me that are just so damn good. I'll go to my grave remembering, I'll probably remember that steak and that night, because of everything involved with it, more than I'll remember 99% of the crap that happened the rest of my life. So well worth it. What about you? Worth it or not?
I've accepted it. It was a good group too that you, me, Reed, Olivia, Patriot J, a couple other people. It was fun. Like it was kind of the nuclear group that stuck together and was, going around everywhere. But hey, we got a comment here that I think is funny. It's Clint is so jealous right now. Well, I do have a type, and I think it's important to tell everyone I slept in the same bed with Brian the last night of Freedom Fest. That's true, isn't it?
I say, he got tired of Clint, and he had to go with the smooth dolphin. That's my nickname in the bedroom. Clint, I will say, he after letting us down in Reno, because he bitched out on the one night, he's like, all right, I'm tired, I might go back out. When we tried to take a picture with Sarwark at the Mexican place, right. Then he just went to bed at like 7 p.m. And then I thought he pulled that in Vegas, but he came back down, and we were up to like 3 the one night. Yeah. So good job, Clint, for staying up one night at least.
Yeah. No, he's old. People forget. I mean, actually, he's probably not any older. How old are you?
I'm 42. I think he's like my age, or maybe
he's younger than you.
Yeah, exactly. There's no excuse.
Well, yeah. So, what's coming up for you next, man? Are you going to any more events? I've seen you like all over the place, keep bumping into each other. But is it like a slow zone now? Nothing big coming up?
Yeah. Well, it's slower. I was tempted to go to y'all. It's just because you guys are going, and my parents live in Tampa. It's in Orlando, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And I was tempted to go to that, but I got a kid coming. So for me, it's actually good. Dead zone. She's coming in about a month, so it's good that it's quiet. And then after that, we'll see what's coming in the new year, man. I definitely want to go to Pork Fest, so I'll hit that up. And then after that, I don't know. I got to see. I may try to do a little bit more international stuff. Like I was at the Austrian Economics Conference last year. That was awesome. So I don't know. It depends.
Is the autism off the charts at the Austrian Economics Conference?
No. You know what's crazy? Wow, no. What is mind-boggling is the European libertarian scene. Or the libertarian free market economics scene, I should say. It's not necessarily libertarian, but it like crosses over a lot. Mm-hmm. It's full of likable, interesting, successful people. There are beautiful women there. There were like, lots of ladies giving talks that were highly attractive and qualified. I was blown away. And we'd all go out and we'd all drink and go to these big dinners. Like the woman who runs it, Barbara Colm, she was just on my show a month ago. She's likable and funny. Different world, man. I don't know what happened with our American libertarian scene, but we need to be more like the Europeans in only that respect.
So do we just need to like rebrand? Is it the libertarian word that's the problem? Or like, what do you think draws these people? Because like the Liberty Republicans don't seem that bad. Like when I've been to a Liberty Republican event and it seems like more normal, high functioning. You're saying this Austrian economics thing was more, so maybe it's just like the word libertarian just needs to be trashed. Maybe we need to come up with something else. I don't know.
I actually am 100% on board with that. I'm not. I don't think libertarian is. I think it's a poison word. It gets thrown around by too many people that have nothing to do with it. Liberty anyway. Yeah. And again, I guess we've got the party recognition. Let's see what happens over the next couple of years. I was talking to Jason Stapleton about this recently because he was in LA and I was hanging at a bar with him, and he asked me like what I thought would be success for the Libertarian Party, right? Because he's kind of checked out of politics. He's still libertarian, but he's checked out of the movement. And I told him, I was like, it's not going to be votes because that's not going to happen in the next 2 years. But I'm curious to see if they can get converts, if they can add to the rolls. Right? If the Libertarian Party can grow by 20% as far as numbers, or 50% by numbers in the next 2 or 3 years, that to me would be concrete success. And that means that, okay, the brand isn't poison, the messaging is working, because people are going to vote with their interest in an election like of DeSantis versus Trump or a Biden versus Trump kind of thing. They're going to vote for their interest. Yeah. But where are they going to put their money? Where are they going to register? Looking at the long term, they might vote for Biden because they hate Trump, or Trump because they hate Biden. But if they're a part of the party, they're saying, all right, I believe in this long term. Next election, let's see what they do, local elections type of shit. So that to me would be a difference. So I'm willing to give it a couple years, but if not, I'm 100% opening to pivot away from the term libertarian to just stop, drop, and roll to something else, man. Test it out. We got
a whole party. I like that.
I mean, between you and me and all of our podcasting friends, I'm sure we've got enough influence that we could completely pivot from libertarian and start something new. And
we could just do the daydream party, like build a castle for yourself.
Amen. Yeah, man. Shit.
Well, when you come to Pork Fest, we'll have to go check out all the basements around. That sounds kind of weird out of context.
Yeah, that's not a libertarian autist thing to do at all. Come see the beautiful basements of New Hampshire. Only 6% of them are inhabited by libertarians.
Yeah, the one in Bradford where Ghislaine Maxwell was arrested. That basement might be kind of scary to check out. But yeah,
that seems like a good time. I'm in for that one.
Yeah. Well, if you guys haven't hung out with Brian McWilliams in person, you got to do it sometimes. If you're at an event where he is, you'll see him. He's the taller Clint without the goatee. So just follow him around and it'll be fun. But where can people follow Electric Liberty Land and keep up? I just had to throw that in there. Sorry. Where can people
get the troll in? That's fine.
Where can people keep up with Mean Age Daydream? And what type of content are you? You touched on it a little bit. You're trying to phase away from the traditional libertarian complaining about everything. Do you have any interesting non-libertarian guests coming on the show, or anything exciting planned for the next few months?
Well, so I have in the next few months. I'm going to have Nick Gillespie on. So I guess he's libertarian, but he's going to be coming up. There's a few other people. I'm not going to confirm them yet because I'm floating it. One guy actually, well, he is confirmed, which is Brent Hamachek. But he works for basically, I'm blank on the name of the publication right now, but he has an interesting thing where he went to college campuses and is trying to basically forward dialogue between, these social leftists, progressive nutballs and the conservative college students on campus, and try to create a new way for them to actually speak to each other in dialogue. So I'm going to have him on the show. Yeah, kind of looking at positive stuff. A lot more comedians are going to be coming on the show. But in general, it's kind of like I said, it's like this a breeding ground for a philosophical change as far as how we're communicating. So again, it's like I'm trying to do a little bit of current events, a little bit of culture, comedy stuff. Still, I do my my parody songs. I do film reviews. I talk about TV and entertainment industry stuff, and get into the philosophy. So it's a smorgasbord that I hope people enjoy, and I'm trying to broaden it a little bit so it's not just all libertarian content. And in truth, I'll probably start to get away from even hardcore libertarian breakdowns as I work through these philosophical touch points I want to hit on, and try to make it more broad-based, but with a libertarian backbone. Kind of like subversively try to get more people involved in it. And in the meantime, hopefully people laugh. But yeah, so that's Mean Age Daydream. I got a solo feed for that. You can also listen to the Lions of Liberty Network, which has my show, Mark's show, and John Odermatt's show. All three of those on there. That might be changing up soon, but we'll see how that works out. And then you can also listen to a comedy podcast I do called The Boring, BOHRING podcast, which is going to be every other week. But good times, great oldies.
All right, man. Well, we'll miss you at Yale. What are you going to give me if I drop your name during the podcast?
My offer still stands. $100 to whoever can work my name in the most times during that panel.
Is that just the most times? I didn't know if it was like per name
every time.
Because
I'll give you. I'll give you
Brian McWilliams. Brian McWilliams.
I'll give you $10 a name drop, or 100 times for the most, whichever it comes to first.
Okay, sounds good. All right, man. Well, thanks for coming on the show. I mean, it's fun hanging out with you in person. I'm glad we've actually gotten to become friends in real life, not just through this virtual box that we talk to on the internet. But yeah, hopefully we'll see you again soon, and hopefully at Pork Fest. That would be great. We'll convince you to move up here with our great basements. Nothing.
See. You were threatening a Los Angeles visit to come see me out here, so maybe I'll convert you and have another ally out in the great wasteland of philosophical. I don't know, deuterium. I'm trying to think of the word I want. Just shit. Philosophical shit that is California.
I did have Ben Weir on my show the other day, and he's running for sheriff in Merrimack County in New Hampshire. So what you were talking about when you said hijacking the sheriffs to kind of align with your political goals, there's really something there. Like, I think,
dude, there is.
Libertarians should be electing sheriffs all across the country. That should be their number one goal. Like, forget governor, forget Senate, whatever. Just elect sheriffs, and you can do it in any state. And they can basically dictate what laws the police are going to enforce. So I don't know.
They have a lot of power for an elected official, because you can't elect anybody in the police department. So,
right. Yeah.
But yeah, man, thanks for having me on. I get right back at you, dude. It's been a great joy becoming good friends with you. And hope to see you soon, bud.
All right, man.